Leigh Alexander,
Andrew Smith,
Ria Jenkins,
Kaitlin Tremblay, Matthew Reynolds,
Molly Carroll, Ed Stern,
Julie Horup, Christian Donlan,
Mike Bithell. What is your favourite game?
My favourite game.
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 My favourite game is...
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until... well, let's just say your hour has come again. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
So I think, of course, we can't talk about Half-Life 1 without talking Half-Life 2, and like if you thought the physics were probably, you know, perfect physique then, or not perfect physique, but like inch to perfect, then you really had to do it then in Half-Life 2.
Half-Life 2 is amazing.
Oh, it is.
Just that first, and also like the balls to say, oh, guess how this Half-Life's going to begin. You can arrive on a train. And that first 6 minutes of arriving in City 17 is just such a masterclass in terms of what you're shown, getting people up to speed on the controls. Oh, it's so good. And the administrator's, propaganda speech. It's just so smart. They really know what they're doing. I'm sorry, this should not come as news to anyone. Yeah, that was an interesting. Again, it's always fascinating to hear about the stuff that got cut, or that didn't make it, or that just didn't quite land. So there are the man hacks. There are those little kind of drone, razor bladey. And initially, the idea was that those were actually being controlled by teenagers who were being told it was all a game. Which is, I can kind of imagine, like maybe it just was felt like such a cheap gotcha. Kind of, hey, games, hey, didn't I just blow your mind? I don't know. I'm sure they'd have done it a lot better than that. But I don't know. I think there's some stuff. For example, there's that game a couple of years ago, Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh God!
Which I really admire what they tried to. It just didn't work for me. They do a lot of that kind of fourth wall breaking kind of. Have you ever thought about this? And it didn't work. It just felt like, yeah, I know. We all know this. Like I don't know. I just thought. Maybe it's just because I am, as has been established, the oldest man in the world. But I can imagine at certain ages, you would be amazed by that. Like as a teenager, I think that'd be the most amazing thing. But I just felt, being finger wagged at. I felt like I was being lectured about games. Like I know we know this about first-person shooters. We know this about. To whom is this news? Sorry, I've completely lost my thread. What were we talking about?
We were just talking about Half-Life 2 in general.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's lovely to see Barney again. That was great. And the way he teases you, like, oh, where's my wrench? Where's my wrench? I don't have the crowbar. And he gives you, and it's not, it is a wrench, not a crowbar.
Oh my God, we've not talking about the crowbar and how it's one of the greatest weapons ever. God damn it.
Well, just such a simple thing. Like, if you press left mouse button, you'll do one clang, and then you hit it incredibly. It goes tang, and it's a really satisfying noise as well. And you're wearing this HEV suit, and just immediately, like the first time you try it, you go tang 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 tang. Oh, to destroy crates. And it took me a long time to realise you should destroy the crates because they've got goodies inside. The problem is that you will auto-equip a weapon if you don't already have it. So what's happened several times is that I would be kind of slightly lazily like mowing through crates. Go, I've killed all the enemies. Now I shall harvest, and I'd be there destroying all the crates. But then it would drop one of the satchel charges, which I would then, with the mouse button still held down, auto equip, immediately drop, and detonate at my own feet. Oh!
Oops.
Not Gordon Freeman. Not Professor Gordon Freeman's proudest moment. That.
No, absolutely not. Neither would be Val's. How do we describe this? Neither would be the episodic run Half-Life 2 got afterwards.
Well, it's a tough. It seemed to be. For me, it's a bit like the whole debate about free to play. It makes perfect sense. I mean, games are too long. They cost too much to make. By the time you've finished making them, you've worked out how to make them properly. That's the point. Like, well, now we know how to make maps. I mean, partly it's scheduling and production pipeline, but your tools are sorted out. You've worked out all the kinks. There's an old joke I no longer find funny, which is you finish the game with the team you should have started with, and you're finding a position to make the game. So it makes all sorts of sense that they've got this stable engine, and they know how to make content, and they know how long it takes to make things, and that they keep making more bits of it, more chapters, and that'd be great. And so it wouldn't be wait for 5 years for one huge game and then no one really finishes it. The fact you could buy it in smaller chunks, and which on paper makes perfect sense. It just wasn't that. Was it Black Coast? What was it? The road?
Yeah. It was Black Coast. Yeah.
Is it that? I keep on getting mixed up with the Sword Coast for the D&D universe for the.
No, it's definitely Black Coast. Yeah.
Neverwinter. Yeah. But it's like free to play. I mean, clearly, and it was, and we have Steam to thank for this. God, do you remember when Steam came out? It was
God, yeah, I do remember that
because it came out with Half-Life 2, and
it did, yeah.
And it was awful. It was really like. Whatever else you can say about Steam, and it troubles me that it's so good at its job. It's effectively a monopoly. I don't think that's good for people, even though I love Valve and I think they do great work. I've got some quibbles about some of their curation strategies, but they've kind of, without quite meaning to, ended up in this amazing position because they've got this amazing tool that they've finally made work wonderfully well. But yeah, when Steam began, it was terrible and invasive. The idea that these things will all be downloading in the background. No one that I knew had an internet connection fast enough for that not to be a colossal pain in the arse. Really? You're using my bandwidth for a game I may not even have bought yet? What? So, yeah, that wasn't tremendous. It still had some good bits, and basically it was more Half-Life 2, so I wasn't complaining. But again, another thing that makes sense on paper is that, like, the current thing about basically... On paper, games are broken. They take like the AAA stuff. It's far too expensive to make. We make them, too long. Clearly, not enough people pay for them in the first place, or they'd rather play a tablet game. Not enough people. It's only when the Steam stats came through and you realise, wow, look how few people finished that game. That's amazing. Really, everyone dropped off in the first. They bought it, and then they just stopped playing 2 hours in. Wow, that was a real shock, certainly to me. I don't know about the rest of the industry. There's me and the rest of the industry. Sorry, I mean, I'm sure smarter minds than mine already knew this from testing. So it should make sense that it's like you want a pint, so you go to the pub and you've got to buy every bottle behind the bar. That's what games are. I call it the 50 quid or fuck off business model. Like, however much of a game you actually want to play, you've got to buy all of it. You've got to buy all of the content up front, whether you're going to use it or not. And that sounds like nonsense. But when you try and do it the other way of, okay, well, you've got the basic version of the game for free and then you can buy more as you go. That should be a good deal. That should sound great. Instead of which we're all really suspicious from seeing it done badly, where we just feel like, I'm just being nickeled and dimed and this is just, horrible free to play. Just, everyone's played bad versions of that. Hopefully, we as an industry will do better and come up with not pay to win and just do it a bit more in a rather more civilized fashion.
You mentioned the setting itself just then, Termina, which is a kind of, well, not so much kind of as it is a kind of a change from Hyrule. You said yourself, it gives that small town feeling. But what else is it about Termina that you love about the game?
Well, I love that they managed to create this sort of very small but charming and sort of deeply eerie world, and it felt very different from any other Zelda game that'd been created so far. It feels different from every other Zelda game still. It just stands out. And it's a bit eerie in like a sort of David Lynchy way. And growing up, it makes sense now to me that I love Majora's Mask as much as I do, because as an adult, David Lynch is my favorite director. So I guess I kind of just like that sort of creepy vibe. I think they managed to fit in a lot of things that just all of the characters tied together. Everybody in the game had their own sort of problems, and they had their own schedules, they had their own agendas, and they had, even if you couldn't help solve their problems, they were still made apparent, sometimes in like sort of ways that weren't so obvious. Like, one of my favorite examples is, do you remember the Deku Butler?
I've actually not played the game. I'm just going through notes, so I can't really talk. Although, that said, I should probably pick up the 3DS version now.
I haven't actually bought it yet either. Just because, I've played the game a lot of times. I'm not in a massive rush to
get back into it.
Yeah, although I do really want the 3DS version. But there is a character that you meet. Now I feel like I'm going to spoil it for you, though.
No, go for it. I'm fine. I more or less know anything in it. So.
All right. There is a character that you meet in Termina, and he's around the first sort of dungeon area in the swamps. And he's a Deku Butler, and he races you, and he mentions that you remind him of his son, who mysteriously disappeared, and he never saw him again. The first character that you meet in Termina when you first start the game, first sort of thing that you encounter, rather than a character, is a tree that looks like it's crying, and your fairy Tattle tells you that it looks like you. When you meet the Deku Butler, he tells you that he's reminded of his son when he looks at you, when he races you. And the conclusion, sort of, the popular theory is that your Deku form is actually the Deku Butler's son, who's died, who's been killed by the Skull Kid, the antagonist, and its soul was put into the mask that you're now wearing, which is really kind of dark for a Zelda game. All of the masks that you wear in Majora's Mask come from sort of a piece of a character's soul, in a way. But the other ones that you get throughout the game, the Goron mask and the Zora mask, those are characters who have died, but you sort of know that, and they've sort of died before you got there. Like, you're not at fault, you're not involved in any way in their death, you're sort of releasing them by putting on this mask and sort of fulfilling their duties for them, or doing something that they meant to do, like saving the Goron village, etc. But with the Deku, it's kind of your fault that character has died, because it's died so that you could be turned into this thing.
That's a bit of a tough burden to put on Link.
Yeah, a bit.
Just to touch upon something that you yourself mentioned just then. You mentioned how you were a big fan of David Lynch. And obviously, when you think of David Lynch, of course, the first two words that pop into mind is Twin Peaks. So, I would obviously assume Majora's Mask would be in the conversation itself, but like, what other games do you kind of see as, in terms of atmosphere, anyways, see as the gaming equivalent of Twin Peaks? Like, there is another game that comes to mind in terms of that, and that's Alan Wake.
Yeah, I've only played a little bit of Alan Wake, but it did give me that vibe, and I've heard that before. There's also Deadly Premonition, which is essentially meant to be like gaming's answer to Twin Peaks. And it's also another game that I haven't played that much of, but from what I have played of it, I can see where the inspiration comes from.
There is that kind of general creepy atmosphere of Majora. How did you get on with it? Because, like, from what I've kind of heard, it is, like, genuinely scary at times.
I don't remember times when it was genuinely...
Okay, maybe not genuinely scary, but it did feel like it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid and I was playing it, the thing that terrified me the most, I mean, I guess the first boss would be considered quite scary, especially if you are a kid, because I think I was scared of that. Now I just think it's really cool, but... And it's kind of a shame because they've changed it a bit in the 3DS version, I've heard. They've nerfed him a little bit. But his name was Odolwa, and he was sort of this huge, tribal, chanting, flailing, jumping guy who you just encounter and you don't really expect it. It's just sort of shocking how massive and how, like, crazy he is. And I guess he can be quite hard to beat when you're first encountering him, just because of the sort of shock factor of he just seems unpredictable and he's scary looking, and I think I was quite terrified of him when I was a kid. And there's creepy things like there's Romani's Ranch, and there's aliens that try to abduct these cows, and it's actually kind of spooky. When you look at them, the music that plays and everything when you're trying to sort of shoot down these aliens that are trying to abduct cows, which on paper sounds funny, but in practice it's quite spooky. There's some ghosts in the game as well. When you encounter one of the first masks that you can get, or that you'll probably get when you play the game, is Camaro's mask, and you get it by sort of finding this guy who's dancing around, and his dance in itself is a little bit spooky looking. He's dancing on like a mushroom-shaped rock, and it's you go up to him and he tells you about like his troubles, and he's sad because he died before he could spread his dance around the world. So he gives you this mask, but which is funny, but I think all of the sort of quests and all of the issues, all the characters in Majora's Mask, on paper sound a little bit funny and cute, and they are, but there's always this sort of air of eeriness to them. It's
also bearing in mind, of course, it's a massively contrasting difference in tone, anyways, compared to Ocarina of Time, whereas Ocarina of Time is this big, beautiful world to explore, like you did. There is that massive kind of tone change in Majora in terms of how creepy it has gotten over Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels like, I don't know if it's more of an adult game. It's not more of an adult game, but it's definitely, when you're a kid, it feels very profound. Whereas in Ocarina of Time, I don't think anything happens that ever feels like, wow, this is heavy, man. But in Majora's Mask, quite a lot of things do. There's these children on the moon that you go and speak to, and they say things like, these friends that you have, are they really your friends? Or, like, you know, the things that make you happy, do they make other people happy too? And it's just, they're like these strange, creepy little kids wearing your masks that you've collected throughout the game, and they're just saying creepy things to you. And there's things like the postman, you can read a note from him. I mean, there's this sort of desperation that builds in all of the characters over the 3 days, and that helps to build a sense of urgency too, because they just sort of gradually become more desperate to flee this impending doom. They're obviously all going to die because the moon's going to crash into them, and it's very heavy. Whereas Ganondorf is just sort of, he's foreboding, but he is just this one guy, and even though he's capable of doing terrible things to the land, it's not the same sense of, like, nobody in Hyrule is really like, Ganondorf is coming, this is terrible, what are we gonna do? Whereas the entirety of Majora's Mask is just these people wondering what the hell they're supposed to do about this massive thing that they can't escape, that's just inevitably going to kill them.
Just kind of looming over them large.
Yeah.
Literally.
And the shift in music throughout the game, the shift in music throughout each day, it gets eerier and it gets quicker and sort of more desperate sounding as well.
So, let's go over the other things that you liked about Shining Force. So, what were those things that you did like about Shining Force, the other things?
Top-down strategy is probably my favorite combat style of any video game. And so I love the board game feel of it. I love being able to take my time and strategize where to put my players and what is the best physical plan of attack. So top-down RPG or top-down strategy like Fire Emblem Awakening is definitely the easiest way to win my heart over if you're a video game. it was to the point where when my brothers and I were kids, we took a bunch of cardboard and cut out squares and converted our living room into a movement grid, and then used our X-Men action figures and made our own like 3D board game that way. And so I'm very, very partial to anything that has a top-down movement grid style of play.
Oh wow! I think I should probably bring up at this point, then, considering you were your kind of first PlayStation experience was PS3. I have to bring it up. Did you play Valkyria Chronicles at all?
I did.
Oh my god!
It's so good.
Okay, this podcast of my favourite game is no longer Shining Force, it's about Valkyria Chronicles. Oh.
If only Wilkins had a little bit of a more attractive name.
Exactly. It's a shame they're not, it's a good relation, Shining Force and Valkyria Chronicles sort of strategy based. What a game Valkyria Chronicles is. I could really ramble on about that for days. Admittedly, I've not finished it for a long, long time. I've still not finished it, but what a game it is.
It gets so hard.
Exactly.
I haven't finished it either, and there are some battles that I've replayed 20 times and would text my partner and be like, if I don't beat it this time, I'm never playing this game ever again because I'm going to break something.
I'm going to eject the disc from the PS3. I'm going to snap it because I just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great, but it is so fucking hard.
It is so hard. It so is, and yet, like idiot that I am, I bought Valkyria Chronicles 2 on the PSP, and yeah, that was a bit of a silly mistake, especially when not completing the first one. Oops.
You're investing in the series, the franchise, so consider that.
Yeah, definitely. Which kind of makes it a shame that Sega hasn't really seen fit to kind of invest in bringing over Valkyria Chronicles 3.
Yeah.
Which is a massive shame, and in fact for the entire series, because it seems like it's dead now.
Well, and I think the fact that like Sega is the only of like one of the major consoles that isn't still viable today maybe speaks to it being the not greatest at business decisions.
Maybe.
I don't really know much about that history behind it, but
it's safe to say that Shenmue 1 is perhaps the defining game for the Dreamcast, right?
I'd definitely say so. I think it's, in terms of like what it did for the Dreamcast, in terms of like I don't know, just the budget side of things, and like, you know, and it's just like a big tentpole release. And I think it encapsulates about what a lot of the Dreamcast was trying to do. Like it was a super ambitious machine ahead of its time. And I think Shenmue was that as well. Like it's done a lot of things that other games have done since, you know. But I think still Shenmue is very much a game that still captures, it still does things that no other game has done in my eyes.
If Shenmue 1 is the defining game of the Dreamcast, like, would you say Shenmue 2 is the last great Sega game? Because like I mentioned Alan Williamson's episode at near the top of the show, and he more or less said it was the last great Sega game when he was on about Shenmue 2 as one of his honourable mentions.
Shenmue 2 is probably more well known, and Shenmue 2 is quite a personal game to me because I played it around the time of my parents' separation, and so I had a lot of feelings going on when I finished that game, but also because it really was the last great Sega game before they stopped manufacturing consoles. And to me, Shenmue kind of represents the death of childhood.
Wow.
That probably sounds a bit melodramatic.
No.
Like I was 16 and it kind of felt like everything I knew was falling apart at the time. And then you had this incredible game with the biggest cliffhanger ever. But Shenmue 2 is full of great bits. There's the fantastic bit when you have to fight your way up like 50 floors of a building. It's just constant fights, just constantly kicking people's asses, and you finally get to fight Lan Di at the top of a skyscraper. It's mind blowing, and the amount of detail they've put into the world, and it's got really, really great characters, and like it's just stuff full of like arcade machines and things. Just think, what were they thinking? That would never get approved today. No. Nobody you play as a Japanese teenager in 1986. and you get to walk around town and like get a job driving a forklift and airing out books, and you get to learn martial arts moves. People are like, piss off, nobody's going to buy this. This is ridiculous. How many million? 70 million? It's still like the most expensive game ever made.
Yeah, just to go back to the question, is Shenmue 2 the last great Sega game?
Possibly. I think. I mean, it's definitely the last game I remember really paying attention to on a Sega console. Like I can't think of really anything other since. Like ever since then, I remember it quite vividly when Sega gave up on the Dreamcast and like reading in like Games Magazine, just like going to my local game station, I think it was at the time, and like seeing and just hearing about like, oh, Crazy Taxi is coming to the GameCube, or this, that, or the other games come to like a PS2, and it's just a really weird thing where it's suddenly original games from Sega like started slowing down, and then you just see the games that they had made and the franchises they had made come to other platforms. I think it might be actually one other game that I think, I'm trying to think in the timeline, but Super Monkey Ball, the original Super Monkey Ball, is an incredible game. I don't know how that fits compared to like the time frame, but that could be the last great Sega game, just because it's such an incredible like just GameCube launch title. Just a really great feel to it, like great sort of sense of speed, and such a great game just to pick up and play. It was just like a beautifully presented, like the sounds of it were great, the visual style. I'm just really bummed out they don't make Super Monkey Ball games, and if they do make them, it's just some weird kind of like mobile spin-off that doesn't really have anything to do with Super Monkey Ball anymore. So that might be like the last great Sega game, but like Shenmue 2 was kind of like the Dreamcast's last hurrah, that's for sure. I remember like getting it very, very late in the kind of Dreamcast life cycle, if not maybe when it was cancelled. I can't remember how those two things sync up.
So I wanted to touch upon a unique aspect that, again, I mentioned Super Bunny Hop's video earlier, but he mentioned something really interesting. There's these kind of characteristics some of the characters in the game have, like 3 characteristics each character has. So I'll name them. Snake, Eva, Vulcan, Ocelot, who we've not talked about at all yet.
Oh, Ocelot's my favorite.
And the boss. So, just to mention them, Snake's 3 characteristics is he's basically a gun nut, considering he goes off about guns 3 times in the game. Eva, because now this is an interesting one. Eva's characteristics in that she tries to seduce you 3 times at key points in the game, but furthermore, in her introduction to you, she tries to seduce you by unzipping part of her suit.
I don't know if she's trying at that point. I think she's trying to... Well, anyway, I'm going to save it. Continue.
Her characteristics from her introduction were that she unzips part of her suit, there's suggestive dialogue, and then she gives Snake a new toy, which is basically a Colt 45, which he is just, swooning himself. Yeah.
And it's not at all suspicious that it's a Chinese model, whatever.
Exactly. Oh wow, I just dawned on that. Oh wow, foresight.
He's like, wow, this is from China. Where'd you get this? She's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not a spy though.
This is an interesting thing because foresight. Now that you've reminded me about that Colt 45 coming from China. Foresight.
I don't know if that's the gun she gave him.
Oh.
The gun that she had, which he commented on. I can't remember.
Okay.
He had something like that.
But there is an aspect that Kojima does really well with his games, which is foresight, and that he kind
foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. And in MGS2, like, to kind of give you an example, like one example in mind is the ninja. It's Olga, and the music that plays when
this time,
when you first meet Olga is riding on the helipad, like that's
in MGS2.
Yeah, and that's the same music that plays when the ninja comes in to save you from Ocelot when you're saving the hostages, or when you're knocked out heading in the arsenal gear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that foreshadowing is one of the great things Kojima does really well with his games.
I agree.
So yeah, sorry, I was off point there. Another freeze characteristic, Volgan, and that's how sadistic he is, because he's seen torturing people in the game 3 times.
He loves hurting people. Yeah.
He does. And Ocelot, his characteristic is that he cares for his countrymen because he remarks it in the game 3 times.
Oh, it would be that he likes to show off. But I almost think, like, Ocelot is the guy who you can never quite pin down, because whatever Ocelot is doing, Ocelot always knows what he's doing. I feel like his gun never jams by accident. I mean, as sweet as it is to think of a story whereby Ocelot became who he was because of Solid Snake's father, if Ocelot had wanted to terminate Big Boss, he probably could have at several points. So I don't know. I just feel I feel like Ocelot doesn't have accidents. He just pretends he does.
And the final characteristic is the boss, because basically before you fight her in that field at the end of the game, or towards the end of the game, she basically beats you up 3 times.
3 times, yeah.
So
she does.
There's these kind of rules of freeze. That's,
well, I hadn't noticed those before. That's awesome.
I hadn't really noticed it myself until I watched the Super Bunny Hop video. So yeah.
I better watch that. I really need to.
It's worth noting, of course, that in the he obviously did do games before Metal Gear Solid 1, like the 2 original Metal Gear games, and as well as that Snatcher and Police Knots. But it's fair to say that Metal Gear Solid is the game that made Hideo Kojima a massive superstar.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely.
Like after MGS1, like you couldn't go far without seeing a Hideo Kojima game on top of on a Metal Gear box. Like. A fun anecdote. When I first finished MGS3, do you remember the post-credits scene, the post-credits phone call with Ocelot?
I do, but I don't. Go on, remind me of it.
No,
I'm struggling, to be honest. I can remember the scene. I can remember a scene title because there's always a phone call.
No, it's not so much what the content is itself, but the fact it took place. But when I first finished it, like it was just a game logo. But when I went back to play the game on Vita last year, like it actually had a Hideo Kojima game on it. Like it wasn't there before. So, like I think that kind of tells you a lot about how kind of big of a rock star Kojima's kind of become as of MGS. In fact, like I remember a talk he gave at BAFTA a couple of years ago.
I think I was there for that.
Oh, were you? Yeah. He was there just basically saying how he was kind of the last of a dying breed of Altairs.
Yeah, I think that might be. I think what's happening is I think that those people are still there. I think we're seeing this across media. That frankly, the big blockbuster stuff is now bigger than individuals in terms of how it's being promoted. They can no longer tether themselves. We're not getting new Spielbergs arriving. We're getting Marvel movies. If the genius of the Marvel stuff is that they've made the suit the star, not the actor in the suit, meaning that they can at any point change things up, remove Iron Man is an Iron Man movie. It's not a Robert Downey Jr. movie. Now, obviously, he is Iron Man, but that could change any moment. And I think the same's true in games. I think there are absolutely those auteurs working in the industry. I mean, I know a few of the creative directors of the big AAA stuff, and they're all very opinionated, very strong-willed creative forces that are driving these games. But at the same time, the publisher needs the brands to be the game. I think there might have been a certain element of naivety back in the day, when we saw kind of people like Hideo Kojima, and Cliffy B, and these kind of people elevated. They were often. It was the reason they were elevated was to sell video games, and I think what no one realised at the time was that these people could leave and do their own thing. And I think now there's probably a fear involved in people leaving. And I think if you knew the name of the person in charge of the original Assassin's Creed, the guy who thought that up and pushed it through the system and got it made. You might be more of a fan of that guy than you are of Assassin's Creed. And if that guy then goes and joins Activision, are you going to buy the new Activision game rather than the Ubisoft game? So I can understand why they pulled back from that. But I think right now the auteurs are coming up in indie, and that's where you see them. And frankly, auteur theory is always an interesting one. I don't massively subscribe to it personally. This idea that you can distill the creative force behind something to one person or to one entity is, to me, that's something that favours the person with the name of the logo, but doesn't actually reflect how things are produced. I don't think it's true in film. I don't think it's true in games. For me, auteur is a marketing method. The reason that when you see Volume marketed, it says from the creator of Thomas Was Alone. That's not because I'm the guy who made Volume. I'm not. I'm the guy who was in charge of Volume, but I have a team who've done awesome work. It's because I know that will help sell the game to certain audience people who like Thomas Was Alone. So for me, auteur is a marketing term, and I think it makes sense within the indie space right now. It made sense within mainstream AAA development back when Metal Gear came out. I don't think it makes sense with AAA games right now, just because of the budget and the scale of production. I think what the situation right now makes more sense.
This is going to sound a bit of a controversial question, but I'm going to put it to the enemies, because why not?
Go for it.
Do you think, the name Hideo Kojima is a brand? Because, you've not just got, Metal Gear games, but you've also got things like PT, and, at the end of PT, you see his name and Guillermo del Toro there. You typically don't see it, like you say, Patrice Desilets presents Assassin's Creed, or Joe Staten and Jason Jones presents Destiny. Something like that.
No, I think that's what was created with Hideo Kojima, and undeniably Hideo Kojima has a vision, has a creative energy, but presumably that stuff is as inspired, or at least in part inspired by people like the core creative team around him. That core art director, which what's his
Yoji Shinkawa.
Yoji Shinkawa, exactly. He's as much defined Metal Gear Solid as anyone else. And it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. My company's called Bithell Games. I'm not in any way aloof about this. It's a great marketing approach. But yeah, Hideo Kojima sells games. You know, and I don't think it's a dishonest way to sell it. The man has a vision, and he is a force to be reckoned with. But that's what it is. It's a marketing system.
My friends, let us fight together again.
I have waited long for this day.
We will fight with you once more. Welcome back, boss.
Now that all 5 of us are together, it's time we go to the depths of hell itself. It's raining blood. Is he crying?
I want to touch upon the Cobra fights as a whole, because the Cobras are just
they're so good.
The best.
They're not just boss fights; they're really good puzzles as well.
Oh, like in what way? How do you mean?
I mean, you don't necessarily know, like the thing about poisoning the fear until he collapses. Like, most people might try to just shoot him down, if you don't know, or I don't know. Even like the Fury is such a pain in my butt, especially if I'm playing a no-kill game, because you usually have to hit him in the back, I think. So it's like you've got to use the grid. It's like, and interestingly, it's like the bosses from MGS1 all over again. Like a lot of them have a similar. He uses that layout over again. Like the Fury's just Raging Raven again. So like if you can use a grid, then you can beat the guy. So it's kind of like there's certain skill sets that each one requires, and they're all really wildly different. Obviously, the end is like the best boss fight ever in a video game, just ever. Like, and that, I mean, speaking of, I keep saying how he subverts the things that we usually expect from action games. That you have a boss fight that you could actually sleep through if you wanted to by moving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, or I mean, I have to sneak up on him and hold him up and eat his parrot and do everything. I'm not happy unless I get, that total annihilation, no-kill game with him. But, then it's just this pacey and considered and naturally pacey. Like, the more you hunt him and the better you get at finding him, the pace of the fight escalates. And, like, you're following his footprints through the trees in the dark. And it's just the best boss fight. But, again, each of them... We're used to the boss fight where the guy appears at one end of the screen and we just throw everything we have at him until he dies. But MGS is actually like the anti-boss fight, like you will have to find some other way to do it than to throw everything you have at him until he dies.
I wanted to touch upon that because you mentioned how they feel like they're more or less an evolution of what was Foxhound in Metal Gear Solid 1. But as well as that, there's a certain sense of psychology to these bosses as well, or at least to a certain extent, like to my count 3 of them. Like the end is, like you said, one of the best boss fights ever, because of the endurance of it as well.
And when are you going to get to the end?
Yes. And it's not just that as well. Like, you have the option to kill him before the big fight down in the warehouse.
Yeah, I've never been able to do that. I will fully confess I'm not fast enough. My aim is not good enough. If my aim was better, I would not only use a hush puppy. You know what I mean? Like, I can do all. Like, I've once tried to do a game where I do only hush puppy headshots the whole time, but I'm not that good. No, I can't kill the end in front of the warehouse. I've never been able to do that.
Ah, okay.
And also, I wouldn't want to. Like, who wants to skip that boss fight? Like,
I was just gonna say, like
I want it. His camo is the best camo, like the photosynthetic regeneration camo, and his sniper rifle. Like, the Moisen Nagant, or whatever they call it, is my favorite weapon in the whole Metal Gear. They have it in 3 and they have it in 4, as far as I know. Yeah, I wouldn't miss the chance to get those things. It would feel like I was cheating.
Like, it's not just the endurance at the end, though. Like, there's also a psychological aspect to the sorrow as well, because the sorrow just guilt trips you so bad, and that feels like the worst thing to say. Like, it doesn't feel strong enough, guilt trip, in terms of the sorrow, but it's the only thing I can think of in regards to the sorrow.
Well, it makes you think about the fact that lives are lost in war and that it's not always like glamorous, and interestingly, like, you don't even really fight the sorrow. Like, all you have to do to survive that fight is to keep going. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, when it tells you the game is over, you can't accept that, and you have to press on. And I think, like, if you really wanted to get super heady with it and think about the horror of war and loss and stuff, I don't know, the idea that you know, it only tells you your game is over, but your experience hasn't actually ended yet, is so creepy when you think about it. Yeah, if you want to get really psychoanalytical, and again, like, I love to get really psychoanalytical on video games.
By all means.
I freely admit that I'm sure that a lot of my deep psychoanalysis is not actually well supported by the material that I'm analyzing, and it may not necessarily have been the intention of the creator, but I have all my crazy theories and stuff nonetheless.
One more fight I want to point out, like I said, there is the endurance at the end. There is that psychological aspect of the sorrow, but when you get to that final boss, with the boss, and this may be the wrong...
She's called the Joy.
That's right, she is called the Joy. That's right, that's another code name for the boss. But that's what I wanted to say as well. Like, when you fight her, it's almost as if, and this is perhaps the wrong thing to say, or maybe it is the right thing to say, when you fight her, there is almost a certain sense of joy fighting her.
Exactly. And so, like, I think, if you think about her, she who gave everything, including her reputation and her life, for her country and for the people that she thought of as her children, what greater joy could there be for her than to be evenly matched by her protege in battle? Like, what would make her happier than to be defeated by someone she loved? You know, like, that's probably, for her, the best possible way for her to go. Like, that's probably exactly what she wanted to have happen, as conflicting and painful as it is for Snake. Like, you know, like, I love, that's almost classic. Like, if there's so many, you know, TV shows or movies or whatever about rivalries between two equally matched people who love each other but are destined to fight. Like, if you look at the anime Cowboy Bebop, for example, every time Spike has to fight Vicious, they're always smiling. Even though they're like mortal enemies and are doomed to conquer each other, all of their fight scenes, they're grinning at each other because I think they're just so happy to have met their match. Like, these people who are defined by the fact that they're fighters, what greater pleasure could there be for them to be, you know, to be matched by someone you love? It's almost like the next best thing to, like, a relationship. And yeah, I just, there's such a feeling of destiny and completion about that last fight that there is some joy in it. I mean, the field is full of, it's just all flowers. I mean, they're lilies, but, you know, it's all flowers. It's like almost like, you know, she's in white and they're surrounded by flowers, and it's funereal, but I think it's also, you know, very beautiful. And I mean, I get chills and I get emotional even when I think about it, because I think that's just one of the highest points ever in games for me, is doing that while the music swells and while you've learned that you know how to beat her, and you know, every time you've encountered her up till now, she's humiliated you, like taken apart your gun or broken your arm or whatever the things that she does to you, or, you know, made sure your eye gets taken out or whatever it is she does to you throughout the game. But this just complete harmony with, like, both of them basically are in the same type of clothes. Like, you get your boss camo or whatever, like your black boss camo from the science lab, and she has the white one, and ideally you're wearing both of those, you know, you're each wearing your oppositional colors. And the best way to do the boss fight, you know, you can hide in the grass and eat the white snakes and keep your life. You know, you can hide in the grass and just shoot her and shoot her. But the way to do it is hand to hand. Like, if
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it, like, the game sort of nudges you in that direction, so that, you know, without necessarily punishing you for trying other methods. Like, I've beaten her without CQC before, but it's like that the game actually sort of nudges you in that direction, so that it's preferred that you do the confrontation so directly. It's just awesome. So good. What a great game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the game just wants you to fight her, not with a gun. Like, it's like she'll come at you shooting with her Patriot, but like otherwise the game just wants you to do it hand in hand with CQC. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that fight, love that fight. I mean, to be honest, I think I love it more than the end fight.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely do too. It usually takes me a few tries because I don't know if I'm fully committed. Like, you as the player don't want to do it. And then, of course, everyone has that moment where you're waiting for him to finish her. And then, like, it slowly dawns on you that you have to do it. And it's like, that game was doing that before it was cool and abused and used to emotionally manipulate people. Like, this was a game that conscientiously and intelligently and earnestly wanted the players to feel things without that sort of smarmy manipulativeness of like some of the later choice-driven games where you were X all along, and those surprise reveals that became kind of common and tawdry in video games later. This was an early and a pure edition of you have to pull the trigger.
Oh, I'm speechless about that scene. I don't know what to say about it, but it is.
What can you say? Like, I don't know what to say about it. Like, I almost feel like it's my favorite game because, I start out sounding like a very smart and experienced and skeptical games critic, but the more you talk to me about MGS3, even though it was like 20 years ago or whatever, and I'm old now and I should know better, the more you talk to me about it, I'm just like, you know what? There are not many games that can reduce me into an emotional fan anymore, but that game will always be able to do that to me.
What I mean by not done well, I mean in terms of the release, not in terms of its content. In fact, for the most part, its content was fine. Episode 1 was iffy, but episode 2 was so good, so good. But what I meant by how Valve kind of planned it out was exactly it. Planned it out, the release schedule. So, here we are sitting here, nearly 8 years later, with a cliffhanger. That still rubs me up the wrong way, though.
I have no idea what's going on there. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure they're under. I mean, okay, they aced. I think they did a tremendous job with Half-Life 2, but Half-Life 3. I mean, it's got to be astonishing, or there's no point. I have no idea what's going on there, but I've just got sympathy. I mean, making games is really hard. It's really, really hard. Partly because it takes so much time, and these things that go wrong in slow motion are much tougher to spot. It's really clear in hindsight. You look back and you go, "Oh, we should have done that," or "That was no fun," or "That wasn't a mistake." But it's taken thousands of man hours to get there. Person hours, sorry.
Yeah.
Months and months. Whereas if you were making it in Flash or Unity with a team of 3 over a weekend, you'd prototype and go, "No, that's no good, we'll do something else." It's like, well, no, we've already textured all of that, I'm afraid. That's going in the game. It would have been delirious if we'd had, regular episodes ever since. But, and it's become such a joke in the industry and online of just like, Half-Life 3, when's it going to be? And I have no idea what the situation is with that. But I mean, is there a more definite day one perch?
Exactly. There's games these days where you can say that's a day one, this is a day one, that's a day one, this is a day one, that's a day one. But I think when the day comes, if the day comes Half-Life 3 releases, then that is perhaps, like you said, the most definite day one you'll ever get. Not just for us who are looking forward to the game, but also just for those who maybe not just who aren't in the series, but just looking at it from a curious glance.
Well, I wonder if it will. I mean, it's really fascinating to me what is changing about games or gamers or people, or whatever, however people self-identify, and whether it's inherent to the medium or actually it's just a generational thing. So, for instance, when I've been in the industry for 12 years. When I started, you needed a very expensive piece of equipment to play any sort of game whatsoever. Whether it was there were some consoles, but you had to go to an arcade, or you needed a really expensive PC. And now you can play it on the thing you use to tell the time. Now, you could argue that those aren't proper games, but they kind of are, and people are spending a lot of money on them. I wonder if this kind of... I mean, generally, when I see kind of young kids exposed to classic games, actually quite often they react well to them. Going to events like Game City, and some people have got some Spectrum set up or BBC Micros, and they get into it. Like, they like the fact that it's kind of challenging and hard, and the fact that they're much less fun somehow than a beautifully made tablet game, for instance. And I really hope that if there was, I don't know, let's say a 10-year-old kid for whom Half-Life 2 is before their time. Half-Life 3, why is this such a big deal? And these guys decades older than him are going, oh, well, Half-Life 3, I mean, that's the definite day one perch. And it's a bit like, what was it recently when Kanye, was it Kanye who was doing a collaboration with Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
Other people on Twitter going, who's this? Wow, he's really made this guy. Why would they have heard of Paul McCartney? I mean, they hadn't been alive long enough to learn about pop music. They've been alive for dozens of hours. That's it. So there's part of me that kind of fears that Half-Life 3 could drop next year, and there'd be a whole 2 generations of gamers since going, oh really? What's the big deal about this? I'd imagine it'd just be so bloody good that it would just convert them anyway, and I'm sure that's something they factored in. But it actually, because I used to do sort of music journalism. I used to do reviews for a drum website and interview drummers, and I interviewed Stuart Copeland at the Police. He was a fascinating, really smart guy, and he said something that really stuck with me, which was don't just get into the guy, your heroes. Don't just get into their stuff. Get into the stuff that inspired them. Like, what was the stuff that turned them onto their instruments? Or what did they grow up? Who's the first musician who really excited them? And it's really good practice. It's really good not to just place yourself at the centre of the universe, but try and see how it looked from their point of view. Like, read interviews with, the Valve writers, see who their favourite writers are. I'm pretty badly read as a science fiction reader. There's lots of fantastic stuff I just haven't got round to. I'm not a big sci-fi guy, so now reading stuff going, oh, okay, that wasn't like a direct influence, but that was a thing they thought was important. That's good to know. So I hope that when younger gamers listen to interviews like this, and maybe they haven't played Half-Life, and go, oh, okay, maybe I could, that's on Steam apparently, I could check that out. I hope they won't be disappointed. I think they'll, except for the crappy puzzles and the terrible tank. I think that stuff holds out. I think there are some old games that are kind of punishing and not very rewarding, and just they're not enough fun to play. But I don't think Half-Life 1 is one of them, and I certainly don't think Half-Life 2 is one of them.
I'm always finding games that I love and stuff like that, but I do keep returning to Spelunky and XCOM. And I am thinking, part of me is thinking like, oh my god, am I stuck on these two games for the rest of my life? You know? And like, I keep mentioning it's bad because you write about games and they keep becoming your go-to references for things. Like, I am temporarily banned from writing about Spelunky on Eurogamer. Because which is annoying because I have another article I want to write about it. But like, yeah, you know, I think my problem is I find like, maybe they're just better critics, better writers about games than I am, but like, people like Tom Francis who are able to take... Tom Francis, I think I should point out, is the best video game writer ever. And he's able to, like, even his favourite games, he can take them apart and work out what he doesn't like about them. And I think I'm stuck with just thinking there's like 2 or 3 games which I think are basically, essentially perfect for me, if not for everyone. And yeah, Robotron is pretty hard to argue that it's not perfect.
Wow.
I'm not backing down, basically, is what I'm saying.
I don't doubt you.
Spelunky is, like, I think the other game I'd put up there with Robotron in terms of just how... But what's weird is they're perfect in very similar ways, and that both of them drop you into a world where everything is driven by behaviours and the interaction of all these different behaviours. So they're always new. They're always fair, but everything always feels new. You never quite know what you're going to see.
It was actually because of Chris I actually got on this Spelunky, him and Tom Bramwell, actually, because they wouldn't shut the fuck up about it, basically.
We have been very boring. Like, normally when you talk about a game, you go, oh, I bet I've sold a bunch of copies of that. No, I don't, because that would be an arrow. You know, anyway, you like to think that by talking about a game, you're encouraging other people to play it. But I think we got to the point with Spelunky where we're probably discouraging other people from playing it now because they just want us to fucking shut up about it. Do you like it though?
I love Spelunky. Like, it was in my top 10 a couple of years ago when the PS3 version. Sorry, no, not the PS3 version. The PC version came out.
Yeah, PC version is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, when that came out, like, I was basically obsessed with daily challenges.
I still do the daily challenge every day.
Seriously, come on.
Yeah, I did the daily challenge this morning, and I did not get very far this morning.
How far did you get?
I definitely got into... I want to say I got into jungle, but I'm not sure if I did.
Ooh, so that must have been at least...
I've had a bunch of bad runs. Yesterday, I think I set off the shopkeeper. Yesterday, I think I was pretty certain I was killed by the shopkeeper, but I think today I got a little bit further. But I certainly remember an accidental death and spikes today. It didn't go well. It really didn't go well.
Does the PC version allow you to watch back specific players' challenges?
No, that's the really annoying thing about Spelunky. So if I was talking about Spelunky in my favourite game, I could say this is not perfect. Is the Xbox 360 version doesn't have the daily challenge. The PC version has the daily challenge, but it doesn't have the ability to view other players' games. And the PS4 and Vita and PS3 version do have the ability to play other players' game, to view other players' games. But like, who plays that game on the PS3 or PS4? I think it's a PC game.
I play it on PS4.
I think it belongs on PC.
I mean, admittedly, like, it's not by choice because, like I said, my PC is kind of foodboard now when it comes to playing games. But yeah, I play on PS4. In fact, matter of fact, I bought a PlayStation TV recently. And when I say PlayStation TV, it's the small set-top box that was released in Japan as PlayStation Vita TV.
Oh yeah.
And I played a little bit of the Vita version. And
how does Gravity Rush look on a big TV?
Oh, you can't play Gravity Rush.
Why not?
It only supports some Vita games, not all of it.
No sale then.
Yeah, that's a shame because I really would have loved to have played Gravity Rush on the big screen, unless they bring it over to PS4 with the sequel.
I know they should, because I mean, the PS4 is not. I love the PS. I love Sony, but the PS4 is not drowning in brilliant first-party games at the moment. So Gravity Rush would be a nice addition.
And like they already announced the sequel like is coming, but like we don't know which machine. We don't know if it's coming for Vita again or PS4.
Yeah, we don't know anything about. We've seen that one trailer.
Mm.
Oh, pardon me, yoink. Sorry, Joe. I should also just add that my daughter loves Spelunky. She plays Spelunky with me and is very fond of it, and she particularly likes the way the PlayStation controller glows a different colour depending on who you've selected to play with.
Ah, I did not know that for some reason.
Oh.
Admittedly, I've not played the PS4 version too much.
Oh well, have a look next time.
Link to the Past is also a first for the series in terms of establishing a backstory for Ganon. What did you think of Ganon, or who we would become to know as Ganondorf later down the line?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah, this is the first time they say that he's like the king of the thieves, not the Prince of Thieves. That's Kevin Costner. He's the king of thieves, and yeah, I mean, he's presented as a big sort of pig demon when you finally see him. He's actually got like his alter ego is who you fight initially. He's a priest or a wizard called Aghanim. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but hey ho. And yeah, he's this terrifying force. You actually only fight him properly right at the end, as they have done in subsequent games. There's sort of a final boss fight and then a final boss fight where it's even harder. But yeah, he's an interesting one. They in the Japanese original, it wasn't called A Link to the Past. It was called, I'm probably going to get this wrong. It was called The Triforce of the Gods. Yeah, and there were a lot more religious references. Obviously, that was changed the title. He was named a priest in the Japanese version, and he's a wizard in ours. And there's one of the first things you do is take Princess Zelda to the sanctuary, which was definitely modelled on a Christian church. It's got like stained glass windows, things like that. But apparently, some of the text of the characters in that area is changed as well. But this idea that there's this whole backstory of an evil. I'm not sure it was Ganon, but there was an evil that they had to lock away behind the seals. These sages, magicians, sort of helped the kingdom, and then unfortunately Ganon broke the seal and used the Triforce for his own good, and it essentially grants you a wish for anyone who doesn't know. And so, if you're a bad person, obviously bad things happen. If you're a good person, like Link, good things happen. But yeah, it was you never really interact with him as a protagonist and an antagonist. You know, there's never really any sort of clash in character or motivation beyond he's the bad guy. He's doing bad things. You got to stop him. But he's certainly, along with the Dark World version of Hyrule, he's very creepy. Like, he is a proper monster. You know. Oh, yeah. And that's interesting. Nintendo's usually quite, it's all happy, but the Dark World, instead of stones on the floor, it's got skulls, and there are sort of mutated versions of all the characters, and you know, people who are happy and talking in Kakariko Village in the Light World, they're like mute, or you know, sad or destitute. Their houses are all ruined. It's you know, I think it was followed on with Ocarina of Time very well. You know, there's sort of the dark future in that. It's pretty brutal. You know, zombies roaming the streets, curses, people turned into spiders. It's all a bit grim.
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about spiders.
until Mass Effect, I didn't play a lot of RPGs. Amazingly, but that kind of got me into RPGs, and I love sci-fi, so it was the perfect match. And also the way it handles homosexuality and didn't make a big deal out of it. It was just very natural in the game. I kind of like that. And it's just like, I used to say that the Mass Effect trilogy is like the Star Wars of games.
Yeah, and it's funny timing we're doing this.
Exactly.
Just as the Force Awakens trailer comes out, and for Battlefront as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw at the time of recording this, I saw a tweet a couple of hours ago from Cara Ellison about.
I was just going to mention that.
How that there's no such trilogy or no such series in games that could perhaps live up to Star Wars. Mass Effect is basically our Star Wars of games.
Yeah, but I think the thing about Mass Effect is it will never be as big as Star Wars from people who don't play games.
Oh, no, of course not.
Star Wars is a big deal to. Well, you don't have to watch Star Wars to know what it means to people or what it is about. And with Mass Effect, that will never happen. You have to play games to understand Mass Effect. Or at least you have to listen a lot or read a lot about the game or people who talk about the game to understand how much it means to people who love Mass Effect.
And I think, for better or worse, you could certainly see that was evident with how everyone reacted to the ending of 3.
Oh my god. That was... I can't believe they actually made DLC for the ending. Like, they changed the ending. Like, guys, this is your game. Just because a lot of people are like... And I thought the ending was good. The original ending. I kind of liked it. I think it made sense. And it was just... it was a mess. And I really, really, really can't understand that BioWare chose to actually listen to people and make new content, make a new ending for the game, because people were complaining about it. It's like they made this game. This is their creation, their game, and we just enjoy it.
I mean, like I didn't like the ending. I'll openly say that I didn't like the ending at all. But I respect at the same time BioWare's vision for it, and the creative direction they went for it. Mm-hmm. And I won't, tell them to go and piss off and make another ending or whatever. Like, I hated it, I hated the original ending. I didn't like it, but like I said, I respect what they did with it, because like I said, it's their own creative freedom and vision to do as they please.
Imagine if BioWare came to a games journalist who reviewed the Mass Effect 3 and said, "Well, I don't like the conclusion of your review. Could you please change it?" And then suddenly a lot of other studios said, "Well, we agree with BioWare. Could you please change it?" I mean, it's not the exact same thing, but it's when people create something, it's their thing, even if they choose to make it public and let other people experience it. It's still their creative work, and they own it, and it's their vision in a game, in a product, and you don't change that or demand changes to it just because you don't agree with it. At least that's what I think. You have to respect it as their work.
To be fair, I say as much as I said I didn't like the ending. I'll happily admit that the DLC kind of made me sympathise with it a little bit. I mean, like, it wasn't still the best thing in the world, and I'm certainly, like, towards the lowest end of the scale, but it made me sympathise with it a little bit, anyways. And, like, if you play, did you play the Citadel DLC?
Yes.
That is a fantastic way to kind of, like, I thought that was if you look at it from a kind of apologetic kind of way to say, we're sorry for kind of maybe perhaps screwing up the ending for you if you feel that way, then Citadel was a really good apology, so to speak.
Yeah, it is, but I just think it's sad that a developer has to do that because people complain about the game. Especially because the Mass Effect trilogy is such a huge trilogy and people love it, and I think we can all agree that the games are, even if you don't look at the Mass Effect 3 ending, the games are amazing.
Oh, they are. Like, for the sum of its parts, they're amazing. And like Mass Effect 2, I could perhaps say is actually one of my top 10 games ever. It is basically the Empire Strikes Back of games.
And I can't remember what I was going to say, but yeah, the thing is that because it's such a huge thing, I like would if the new Star Wars movies, if they aren't great, will J.J. Abrams change anything, and then just put out a video and say, well, this is how it's going. This is a new ending to the movie. If you don't like the first one, I mean, that's not going to happen. Maybe at the director's cut at some point, but the ending to Mass Effect 3, the DLC ending, it wasn't a director's cut. I mean, BioWare didn't do the DLC just because they wanted to. They were forced into doing it because people couldn't keep their mouth shut. And I just think it's sad that they made BioWare do it, and that BioWare had to listen to all of the complaining and just be targets for a lot of angry internet people. Like, it's so typical, the internet.
Bayonetta herself. We talked about her character traits, but her design as well, and especially from Bayonetta 1 to Bayonetta 2, but more specifically Bayonetta 1. How did you find it?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously the design was one of the things that initially I sort of thought, that's not really great. But in the context of the game world, and when you get into, you know her character, it's just works, And one of the things that I really, really enjoy about her design is that there's such a focus on the femininity, and it's not, it's not seen as a weakness. She's very overtly feminine, and she embraces that, and I feel like it's part of her strength within the game. She uses the lipstick
to target enemies, yeah.
Yeah, so you have like the lipstick stain come up to target. Obviously you've got the guns in the heels, which is something that I really, really love. Like when you can do, the spinning attack when you're shooting. Yeah, that's so good. So I really like that they emphasize those sort of features, because again, I feel like that's something that's definitely unique to the game. I mean, I'm sure there are other examples where that sort of thing has been done, but for me, it was just the first time I'd seen something like that. So yeah, the design is something in particular that I really love. I feel like it is definitely very sexy, but that's not necessarily always a bad thing. I remember, Sarah Dyer for Stick Twiddlers. The best analogy I've sort of seen regarding Bayonetta, and comparing. Do you remember the Dead or Alive torso that they brought out, a special edition kind of thing?
Yeah. I remember it.
And then so the tweet was, Bayonetta is me taking nude selfies at home. DOA is a dude taking pictures of me at the beach. I thought that was a really good analogy. Like Bayonetta, in her whole design, her whole character is, a really sort of empowering thing. And although you can say, yeah, maybe she does look like the Dead or Alive torso, or those stupid volleyball games where you can like zoom in on the boobs or make the boobs bigger and stuff like that. Although they might seem similar, it's not. But yeah, in terms of Bayonetta's design, the whole outfit, the whole fact that it's her hair that is sort of like the source of her power. It's a real concentration on her sort of feminine attributes, high heels, lipstick, and she's got her glasses as well with all the sort of like butterfly detailing. And when she jumps, you've got the wings, which they're supposed to look like stained glass. And yeah, I feel like it's really, really unique and something that I really love about the game.
I should probably disclose at this point that when I got my Xbox 360, I actually got Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball with it. Not by choice, admittedly. Not by choice, admittedly. The games I wanted were Gears of War and Test Drive Unlimited. I got MotoGP and Dead or Alive with it. It was not a bad game.
Are you sure you want to admit that? Do you want to cut that bit out?
No, I'm fine. I'm more as a journalist, I'm all about making disclosures.
Of course.
Just to kind of stay on that kind of aspect of Bayonetta, like, where am I? The core theme of the game, as if it's not made clear by now to anyone listening, is the sexiness of it, if that's perhaps the right term.
Yeah.
And I was reading up on a couple of quotes from Kamea, of perhaps the developers' desire to, quote, make a sexy witch, unquote, and you said yourself as well, as well as the kind of lipstick for the target system. There's also rose petals that come from Bayonetta when she's attacked instead of and that's to emphasize her kind of quote, her femininity and her sexuality. And like, what is it about Bayonetta that gets sex right, basically, over any other games that tries to attempt it?
That's kind of a hard one. For me, it's kind of... For me, I'd say that it's all within the fact that Bayonetta is so in control. I feel like everything about the game, like the camera angles, for example, the camera is always slightly tilted down, so you're always, as a player, kind of looking up at her a little bit. So the way you look at her is even, like you're not the one in control there. She is. And that for me is one of the really, really important things that makes sort of like the sexual side of the game work. Because like I said as well, in all her conversation, she is completely aware that she's hot, basically, and that confidence, that security, I guess, is one of the things that makes it sexy.
Yeah. it just when I was playing Bayonetta 2, it kind of dawned on me that because like I said, like I can't really speak too much on Bayonetta 1 because like I said, I've not played it, but
yeah.
I think I can speak for Bayonetta 2, and I think it kind of carries over. Like you said, she owns it. Like she owns her.
Yeah.
Like she knows how to completely get it right. Or Platinum knows how to get it right in terms of her design and her character and her writing.
Yeah, I think as well, one of the things that's really great is, as bad as this is going to sound, is sort of like the humiliation and the teasing aspect of it, where she is, you know, because she's aware, she teases people about it and she sort of plays with their emotions a little bit. You know, she knows what they're thinking and she pulls them along one way and then snap, takes it away. You know, she does that so often with Luca in 1. Sort of suggests that something is going to happen and he gets all excited, and, you know, even as a player, you're sort of like, oh my god, what's going to happen? And then it's gone within a second because she has decided that it's going to be gone. And I think that's one of the things, that I think makes the whole sexual sort of aspect work. And again, as well, the torture attacks definitely ties into that. And I think even, I guess you could say the relationship with Jean ties into it a bit, because there's definitely some sort of, some lesbian undertones, I would say, because there's definitely a duality between them that exists, and they sort of almost, in some ways, tease each other and work off each other, but not in sort of an explicit way, not something that you can really put your finger on, just a general atmosphere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just that kind of, I have a gut feeling about it, so to speak. Question that's just kind of popped up in my head. Do you think there's been any other game since Bayonetta that has, just to kind of touch back on the subject we were talking about earlier of sex in games, like, do you think there's been a game that's done sex as a subject, like, on par with Bayonetta, or even better than Bayonetta? Like, there's one game that springs to mind, like, since Bayonetta's release, and that's Catherine.
I've not played Catherine. I really, really need to, and I really want to, but I haven't.
Oh dear, you're missing out. It's actually a really good game. Very fucking hard, but a really good game.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to the question, like, do you think there's been, like, other games since Bayonetta that's done it well?
I mean, from what I've heard of Catherine, I would probably be inclined to agree that, with that one. Maybe not in terms of sex directly, but obviously you've got Gone Home, which is kind of a pretty important one in terms of sexuality itself. Sort of treating a subject matter where there's a
delicacy there.
Yeah. Because I feel like with Gone Home, you go through the story, and you know, you get the hints, obviously, that it's a gay or lesbian relationship, however you want to describe it, but it still treats it in exactly the same way as you would treat any other relationship, and I think that's, you know, the great way of doing it. So I guess you could say Gone Home in some ways, but it's obviously not the same sort of sexuality that we talk about when we talk about Bayonetta.
Oh, no, of course not.
So I mean, yeah, Gone Home maybe, sort of, if you change the definition of what you're asking.
No, okay, no, that's a perfectly acceptable answer. Another one I would chuck in there, and this may or may not be a spoiler. I'm like, it's more or less out there by now, but it's an obvious answer coming from me. Left Behind.
I haven't played Left Behind yet.
Fuck.
It's alright, I've sort of got that vibe anyway, that's fine. But no, I played The Last of Us recently, but I've not played the DLC yet.
Oh, fuck. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh my god. Oh, well, actually, The Last of Us actually in the main game itself does kind of handle kind of a gay relationship very well in the main game, like about halfway through. So
Yeah.
when you're in, oh god, you think I've noticed by now, considering how much I've played of the game. it's after Boston, anyways. Lincoln, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The kind of living, I can't remember his name. Oops. You think I would know that off by heart by now. Thanks for listening to My Favourite Game Season 2. My thanks to the 10 people who have joined me this past season to talk about their favourite game. Leigh Alexander on Metal Gear Solid 3, Andrew Smith on The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Ria Jenkins on Bayonetta, Kaitlin Tremblay on Shining Force, Matthew Reynolds on Shenmue, Molly Carroll on The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, Ed Stern on Half-Life, Julie Horup on The Binding of Isaac, Chris Donlan on Robotron 2084, and Mike Bithell on Metal Gear Solid. My Favourite Game will return later this year for Season 3. Until then, stay tuned for Season 3 news by following @MFG Podcast on Twitter and Facebook.com/MyFavouriteGamePod. Until then, thanks again for listening. Bye bye.